Right, this is a quick explanation of genetic factors in OCD, genetic explanations for OCD. So I'm going to look first at COMT and second at SERT. So we have something called a COMT gene within our genetic makeup. And this affects what happens within our synapses in our brain. So if you remember, when we talked about synapses, we talked about the fact that we have neurotransmitters here, and what we have is, I used to draw a little Mr. Pac-Man. That is an enzyme, and what it does is it destroys neurotransmitters in the synapse. It breaks them down, and that's one thing that can happen to them, to get rid of them afterwards. So what we have then is in one of the enzymes that we have is called COMT, C-O-M-T. And what that does is it breaks down dopamine in our synapses. Okay, and the COMT is produced or coded for by a COMT gene. So the COMT is the actual enzyme in the synapse that breaks down the dopamine. So it eats it up and destroys it and breaks it down. But what the thing that regulates our actual COMT is the gene that's within our genetic material, and that determines how much COMT gets produced. Now, in someone with OCD, what happens is there's not enough. There's a genetic mutation in the COMT gene. So the COMT gene has a genetic mutation, and that means that not enough COMT is produced. So basically what then happens is, because COMT, there's not enough of it present, it's not breaking down the dopamine, you end up with high levels of dopamine in the synapse. And remember, dopamine is excitatory, which means we're more likely to get a message being passed on in the next neuron being triggered. So that is, and you can link that to your worry circuit, the fact that you've got high dopamine. It means that those messages are going round and round the worry circuit. And that could be as a result of your COMT gene. So this genetic explanation, you need to talk about the fact that there's a genetic mutation in that gene. Okay, second thing that we talk about with genetic explanations is SERT. So I'm going to rub that off. What we're doing with SERT stands for serotonin transporter. And that's this thing here. We've talked about it so far as the reuptake pump, but it's otherwise known as the serotonin transporter, or SERT for short. Okay, so in someone with OCD, there is a gene called the SERT gene, and in fact everyone has this, but again, the SERT gene codes for and produces the reuptake pump. If your code within your SERT gene is mutated, so in OCD it's a mutation on the SERT gene, what then happens is that the levels of serotonin in the synapse end up being too low. Okay, and we don't have the extra details for that in terms of, presumably it's because the reuptake pump is too active, but I don't think they've proved that scientifically yet. I might be wrong. So what we've got then is low serotonin. Link that back to the worry circuit. Remember, serotonin normally stops signals being sent, but it can't do that if there's not enough of it. So signals are more likely again to be sent and generated in the next neuron, causing that overactive worry circuit. So that's your genetic explanations. Now go and have a good detailed read and make some notes.